Episode 6, Warden and Colonial Scout Uniforms. Welcome back! I hope the war is treating you well even if you aren't on the winning side. If you are losing, fight harder! This time we will be covering the Warden and Colonial Scout uniforms of the game. Scouting and gathering of intelligence is another vital scale of warfare, for being blind to the actions of the enemy means you are halfway on the road to defeat. In our real world, especially in modern times, information warfare, despite changing a bit, especially from the foxhole variation, has the same core concept. Find out what you can from the enemy and try to use it against them. Until this very update, the scouting role was mainly in the realm of watchtowers, and any player patient enough to raid solo behind enemy lines and inform people via the realm chat or in private PMs what was going on. Now, with the new listening tools available, both sides must be careful on how they use their radio and radio tower signals, as scouts will always be trying to either intercept or guard against them, alongside their more traditional role of border raiding. In the real world, commandos of the Boers and the SOE caused havoc amongst them behind the lines now, and with these uniformed players now have the chance to do the same to a certain degree. Outrider's Mantle. This uniform is thankfully visually different enough to be fun to pick through for me now. First off, we've got a variation of the standard issue capote now the Wardens usually use. This, like the winter greatcoat we've covered before, also seems to be single-breasted instead of the standard double-breasted coat that they use and wear on the field. Instead of the usual collar, it has been lined instead with sheepskin to help keep the wearer warm in the colder areas of the Warden lands or when the weather changes behind enemy lines. We've also got some very different looking buttons or button covers. Unlike the traditional capote, I think this one here is quite firmly closed shut and with press studs maybe? The skirts of the coat also seem quite muddy. I enjoy this detail. Popular media seems to have this almost weird and Martinet-esque fetish, with not only fully equipping frontline soldiers perfectly, but they never seem to ever get dirty or their gear is ever worn despite on the extended campaign or through heavy battles. A few more layers and the muddy coat will blend in well with the standard issue trousers and boots also worn. Wrapped around the chest sausage style is some sort of ground sheet cloak, no doubt to be used when the weather really gets cold, as shelter or extra concealment at night during movement. Slung over the hip is a large satchel that could possibly well be some sort of grenade bag here. We've got a real world example, both open and shut. Now, finally, let's examine the headgear. What we have here is possibly two different hats. The shape certainly resembles the Austrian-Hungarian M1908 Feldmutzcap, but I'm also getting minor soft cappy vibes from the shape of the thing as well. Clearly the model for this uniform are the Alpine-trained light infantry types, like the real-world French Chasseurs Alpins of the First World War. Colonial Recon Camo. This recon soldier has a foxhole and colonial first, some form of experimental camouflage pattern printed to the standard colonial combat jacket. Now, the real-world inspiration easily comes to mind here, the Denison jacket worn by British paratroopers and Canadian soldiers during the second part of the Second World War. Along with the new camo pattern, the colonial jacket mantle has been modified too, extended to cover both the shoulders, and their old 1937 style rucksack is back on as well. Strapped and secured on top of the rucksack tightly appears to be some sort of ground sheet or wet weather cloak to help with sleeping rough at night. The headgear is a shocker, as we've not seen a new colonial helmet since the vehicle crew uniform several years ago. The helmet itself is modelled on a British Brodie Mark II being worn with a chin strap, yet another foxhole first. It also seems to have either a spare chin strap wrapped around the top. I assume this is to fix some sort of form of camouflage helmet or net in place. General conclusion. Once more, nothing here but phrase, I think. I do think the skirts of the capote coat might be a bit too long and not suitable for the more active rough role of an Alpine commando, and some sort of tunic style jacket or coat would have been better in general, but I must say these uniforms are very flashy and fit the intended role for both sides very well. When I see designs like this, I look forward to what other role-based uniforms we'll be seeing in the future of the game. And with that, I want you to always stay on the right side of the road and watch out for trucks and make sure there are also not any suspicious shapes in the bushes nearby too. It could be a raider watching you. Take care.